Good evening. Welcome to the November 16th, 2021 Poquoson City School Board meeting. We're glad to have a nice audience here. It's been too long that we have not had that. So we are calling the meeting to order, and we will start with a pledge of the flag, which will be led by Madeline Haddock, followed by an inspirational reading.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For my inspirational reading tonight, I'll be doing The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, those for that the passing there had worn them all really about the same. And both the morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way. I doubt if I should ever come back, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two words diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. That was wonderful. Mr. Tillett, do we have any additions or modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Excellent. All right. We're going to have some recognitions now. And after the recognitions, we'd like to have a break and be able to meet with you and greet you. So our first recognition is for Poquoson High School Senior of the Month. So, if Mr. Mason Forrest would come forward. You can come right over here. All right. Mr. Mason Forrest is a thoughtful young man who works hard both inside the classroom and out. During his time at Poquoson High School, he has been a member of the Key Club, the Spanish Club, the National Honor Society, and has served on the Student Council. Mason is a member of the varsity soccer team, where he serves as team captain. Mason has also volunteered his time as a sports camp counselor, worked at a local food kitchen, and is a school counseling office aide at Poquoson High School. He's also a member of the Legacy soccer team. Mason has committed to playing soccer for Hampton, Sydney, and majoring in business. Very cool. Please join me in congratulating our November Student of the Month, Mr. Mason Forrest. Thank you.
Very good.
All right. And next, we will recognize the Director of Operations, Mr. Artie Tillett.
Well, good evening, folks. It's great to be here tonight. Not so great to talk about what I'm getting ready to share, but we are losing a pillar of our institution here in Mr. Steve Pappas. He's served Poquoson schools for the past 14 years, starting in 2007 during the construction of the new Poquoson Elementary School. He has played an integral role in the Poquoson Middle School Modernization Project, which is anticipated to be complete in December of 2022. As the Director of Operations, Mr. Pappas has also led the food services, transportation, and maintenance departments. His leadership over these departments has been paramount to student well-being, safety, and success. PCPS is really going to miss Mr. Pappas at the helm of our division's operations. He pursued this position with the utmost dedication and superior performance. I'm not really sure what we're all going to miss most about Mr. Pappas. Could be his witty sense of humor, or his out-of-the-box ideas and ingenious solutions to our challenges, perhaps his expert advice on just about everything, or maybe his expansive vocabulary that never ceases to amaze me. Many will miss the robocalls during inclement weather. I could go on with this list of the things we're going to miss with Mr. Pappas, but I'll just say he's truly one of the finest colleagues that I've ever had the privilege to work with in my career. He's an amazing leader and an even better person. So please join me in congratulating Mr. Pappas on his upcoming retirement. Godspeed. And these are the two boats that you left over in Back River. We hope you get them pulled out of there someday.
Part of the sailing club, I forgot. Thank you.
Now we're going to have that break. Welcome back. That was fun. All right, so next on our agenda are presentations and reports, starting with the superintendent's report, an update by Artie Tillett.
All right, me again. As you're used to, we'll be quickly going through Sandy, you? I'm sorry. Just trying to keep it still. It doesn't work. Our monthly review of our COVID data. And the signs are looking good. This is a quick snapshot that you're used to looking at now monthly. And 2 months ago was completely red. High rates of transmission throughout the United States and around most of the world. And you'll notice that that's becoming a much more colorful map now with lots of yellows and some oranges, which indicate that we're moving from high transmission out of that to substantial and in some cases, especially in the southern part of the country, into moderate transmission. And the good news is Virginia is in that loop. These are just as of the 9th with a running calendar from the end of July to both the transmission rates and death rates. And you'll see that trend has headed down in both areas. And that's been consistent for the last 3 weeks, a downward trend. So that's a good sign in both areas. This is the map of Virginia. And if you look specifically, again, just 30 days ago, our peninsula was red and the surrounding areas was red. And that number those colors have lightened over the last few weeks. And I'm really excited about our transmission rate. When we last reported, that number was 200 and something per 100,000 on the 7-day run. And that's down to 48.9. We haven't seen a number that low since early July. Our case positivity rate is down below 10% now at 6.3, which is, again, a very good sign in just the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially. So we're technically in moderate transmission on the peninsula, and in Poquoson, and the peninsula has moved from high to substantial. So all around the region is looking good. This is cases by Symptom Onset, which is a new piece of data that we've been tracking for the last couple of months. And those numbers are looking good as well. And you'll notice that the dark blue at the bottom are confirmed cases, and the lighter blue indicate probable cases. And that's from the onset of symptoms. So we're monitoring throughout the state and the country, actually. The CDC is monitoring those cases by symptoms, and that line's heading in the right direction too, pretty substantially. Now, if you drill down to specifically here in Poquoson, you'll notice that the daily rate cases over the last 90 days have gone up and then up and down in peaks and then back down, and you'll notice that pretty radical drop, which is indicative of the transmission rate dropping from in the 200s about 3 or 4 weeks ago down to below 50 as of yesterday. Another chart that just shows this indication, you'll see that very steep decline that's really taken place in the last couple of weeks. So as these cases or the lack of cases indicate in the population, this is a really, really good sign for us locally and around the region. Another chart indicating both. You'll see, if you back with me just a little bit, you see the holiday area around January on both ends. That's something to keep an eye out on. You'll notice those were post-holiday, which we're just now getting ready to climb into. So there is some chance for some spikes, and that's being predicted by the VDH and the CDC as well. So we just have to keep our eye out on those possible spikes from holiday gatherings. And you'll see that very clearly on the map, and then you see the Delta variant that started right after the 4th of July, and we started to climb, and that's when our numbers got back in the high rates. and now we've dropped back down to a very manageable rate, and you'll see in our schools specifically over the next few slides some very promising news. This is local vaccination rates, and you'll notice that number we were touting around 54% with our age group that were eligible for vaccinations. Now that the eligibility exists for ages 5 through 11, that number has dropped percentage, and so we're hovering around 24, just over 24%, and our hopes are that that number climbs over the next weeks and months as folks consider for our little fellas those vaccinations. The next slide is that same statistic from the state of Virginia, and so we're right around the same area, about 4 points below the state average for 5 to 17 vaccination rates. Goal is to, of course, get that over 50% as soon as we can, which just makes it safer in our schools. This is a slide you've been seeing now for 17 months. This slide shows from last year our positive cases by school, and you'll notice the whole year we calculated 64 actual positive cases in all of our schools, and that includes athletics, all of our programming, our student staff. On our campuses, 64 cases total, and that was 94 when I reported this last month, and we're at 99 now. We've only seen 4 positive cases in our schools in the last 30 days, which I think is the highlight of this, 5, I'm sorry, 5 in, maybe I should go back to math. 5 cases in our schools in the last 30 days, which is really good news. And if you look over here at the principals, they're all nodding because the work that goes into one positive case is extraordinary in contact tracing and quarantining and all the things that we do when a case populates. We have had 4 outbreaks, but again, that number hasn't changed since about the 4th week of school this year. So that's holding steady, no additional outbreaks. And of course, we only logged 1 outbreak in all of last school year. This is really good news. If you'll remember this slide last month and the month prior, those numbers were extraordinary. I think one report was at 189 total quarantine cases at that snapshot. And today, as of today, we have 0 students quarantining in Poquoson City schools, which is incredible. This is the number of kids who are currently learning virtually because of sickness and quarantine, which is a really good number. This is we've been tracking this, looking at this data for some time. It's generated out of UVA, and they have been calculating numbers and have a really high-tech statistical predictive system, and they are predicting that surge you see in the light gray there around the holidays if we do nothing. The blue line indicates if we continue to apply all the mitigation that we're recommending. Their prediction is that we'll weather this holiday season without seeing significant spikes. So we're hopeful for that, counting on that, and certainly hoping we don't return from the holidays with an increase in COVID cases. So next steps. We partnered, of course, with Rite Aid very recently to do flu clinic, and the flu clinic was successful for Poquoson. We had 179 folks who showed up at our school board office and our schools to receive the flu shot. So that was a successful endeavor, and of course that shot is available at all the local healthcare providers as well as the pharmacies, and several folks are saying that that a lot of people are showing up. Lena was at one recently, and there was a long line to get the flu shot. So good advice to grab a flu shot, the COVID shot, and whatever other kind of shot you can get over there. Mary, who runs our student services, has been working closely with Williamsburg Drug to provide a mobile clinic at Poquoson High School on the 9th of December. So we hope folks listening will consider scheduling that. It'll be totally mobile. You can slip in and get a shot, first shot or a second shot or a booster shot at that clinic. And we want to continue to promote and offer these clinics available. We've made our campuses available as people, as organizations are willing to partner with us to make these vaccinations accessible to as many people who are willing. As you recall, about 3 meetings ago, we talked about VISTA, which is the Virginia system of testing that the Virginia Department of Education has offered to all 133 school divisions. And we have applied and been accepted and are preparing to sign a MOU soon to continue this program that we piloted last year, if you'll recall, and we're still using to make rapid testing kits available to our families as they need them. So if there's a suspicion of COVID, we can screen that quickly and get results in about 15 minutes and provide that information to families in our school system so we can keep everybody as safe as possible. The other thing that this contract provides is some staffing. A COVID coordinator. You'll remember we applied for this, was approved, and we have hired that person. So we're very thankful to bring on board Emily Forbes, who joined our team last week. And she's already hit the ground running, and she will be facilitating all things COVID for us. Quarantine, supervision, contact tracing, communication with the VISTA organizations, the testing system, all of those things that our folks have had to burn the candle at both ends to get done during this process. Now, we hope that she twiddles her thumbs for a little while as COVID stays low. So, but we shall, of course, have plenty of things for her to do. We're going to be housing her at the middle school cottage court. So she will also be available as an administrator when needed. She is a certified school administrator. So we're going to utilize her services in a lot of capacities. But she is funded by this grant. I see Melissa over there shaking her head, happy. This was a real challenge for us, covering lunches at the primary school. You've probably heard more about that in recent months than pretty much any other topic. It's something that we've been very, very frustrated with. We believe we've solved it, and for the last couple of weeks, with a lot of hard work from Barbara and her team, and Melissa's pitched in, and of course, as you know, the middle school, or at least 6th and 7th grades are utilizing the gym and the cafeteria of the elementary school. So that has proven to be more of a challenge than, especially with the social distancing, than we had anticipated. So our teachers were having to work through their lunches, supervising children while they ate lunch, and that was a real challenge. And my hat's off to that staff at the elementary school for their patience through this process as we tried to move lunches around and work through that very challenging issue. And now we believe we're in a good place. Now we've got a lot of folks pitching in, covering lunches and supervising. Dr. Ratliff and Ms. Forrest and Dr. Hill and myself are now on the lunch duty list and the substitute list. So we are available. It takes all hands on deck to make this very complicated thing work, but it's working so far. So we appreciate all those who have helped us solve this problem. We're going to continue to work with the grants that are available. Many of these funds are coming from federal grants that we are applying for and receiving that will allow us, with some restrictions, to continue to grow our summer academy program that we're already going to be planning for this summer, after-school homework clubs, activity buses, food, transportation staffing, paraprofessional pay. A lot of these things that would be very difficult for us to fund are available through these grants. So we're going to continue that process and continue to grow these other opportunities. And of course, a major focus is to address the unfinished learning that existed during that 18-month period of time when our schools were not functioning as they should in in-person learning. So I try to cover that as quickly as possible because a lot of that information is a bit redundant, but just better numbers. So I'm available for any questions you have.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So as far as the mobile unit goes, for the shots and everything, what's going to be the process for the children? Because, Virginia is a consent state.
Yep, it's all through parents. No child can be vaccinated in Virginia without parents' consent. So they will be present on site with their child if they choose to do this. And again, we're just providing the parking lot, basically, as a location for a mobile clinic. But yeah, it's totally up to parents about the health of their children. Any other questions? All right, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next. No, I'm going to turn this over, actually.
Actually, let me ask you a question right quick about, you were talking about the COVID transmission, just keeping low. When do we revisit taking the mask off?
That's a really good question. I'd like to do it tonight. The problem is, any conversation about the mask requires us to violate the order. So right now, we're still under a order. It comes from the Commissioner of Health in Virginia. So as you recall from our attorney's advice, we really don't have any autonomy in that decision without violating a direct order. The order is very specific about what we can and can't do, and we're following it religiously, as are all 133 school divisions in the state. So when that order changes, I will recommend to our chair to call a meeting immediately, and then you folks will decide what our next steps are as it relates. I'll do the homework and you'll make the decisions, but I'm hopeful that we can get beyond the mask mandate as soon as possible.
Yeah, with Florida, they haven't had a mask mandate or anything in their schools, so, you see their transmission level.
Yeah. If
They
you
have a
look-
cool governor.
Yeah.
So how does each county work? Because if some counties are better off than others, they're still holding Virginia as a whole.
That's a very good question, and if you'll recall last year, there was a lot of autonomy at first about mitigation strategies, what schools chose, and the thinking was that schools were in different rates of transmission, school systems were in different rates of transmission, therefore it made sense to make it a local decision. And then sometime, I'm trying to recall about when, the governor actually issued an order, an executive order requiring masks. But prior to that, masks were optional. School boards could choose based on their transmission rates, and that was one of the pieces of advice given from the VDH is if your school division happens to be in a low transmission rate, you can apply less mitigation. If you're in a higher transmission rate, you should apply greater mitigation, and masks were, of course, included in that. But pretty early on, the governor issued an order requiring masks, and then that order, if you'll recall, expired July the 29th, I think was the date, and we were right at the end of summer school, so we had this kind of a few days with no order, and we finished out with the order, and then we were discussing over the summer. I think if I was a betting man, this board was probably going to choose a mask optional protocol as we began the school year, and then order came on the 12th of August.
Yeah, it was around the second week in
Took that
August.
Decision off of our plate. So that's kind of the chronology of it. As we recall back in those charts, they kind of all followed the transmission rates as they went up, those kind of decisions. And then now the transmission rates are back down in a very, and falling all around the region. So it'll be interesting to see whether that order is allowed to expire or change.
So is there any difference from when this board decided to go back to school part-time earlier than everybody else, when that decision came through here in Poquoson? Last one, is there a huge difference between the two?
That's a very good question, and there's a huge distinction between the two decisions. One was complete authority and autonomy by this board, because when a school system started in-person learning was completely up to school boards. And the advice from all the medical professionals was make that decision based on transmission rates in your community. That was when they first introduced transmission per 100,000 over a 7-day window, the data we're still looking at, and then the PCR rates. And, we had to educate ourselves pretty quickly about what those two numbers meant. And we followed those religiously. One of the reasons that I recommended to you all, and you all agreed, that we should get our kids in and could safely do that with the mitigation applied early and quickly. And I think we did that in a very intentional way. But we had complete authority in that, and we would have had complete authority with the mask as a mitigation strategy as well until the order came on the 12th. Now, there was some discussion, and without getting too deep in the weeds, the General Assembly passed a law in March of last year that said every school division in Virginia would have in-person learning 5 days a week this school year, at the beginning of school in August, September this year. So we were preparing throughout the summer for in-person learning. And then what was kind of in that law that didn't jump out at for anybody until we started to study it was the sentence, "and will follow all CDC guidance," in the same law that says you're going to have school 5 days a week. So that was the law, not optional. The next sentence, or the rest of that sentence, says, "where practicable." Now, I'm not a lawyer, so that's why we hire lawyers. Lawyers around the state then decided what "where practicable" meant. So, when practicable. And so, without getting, again, too deep in the weeds, our attorney said that does give us enough autonomy to make a decision when practicable about masks. So we were leaving from over the summer planning for full in-person, and I was going to recommend to you, and you would have decided whether we could have masks or not. Then August 12th, the order came that took that decision off of the plate. So it was really a twofold process. We had complete autonomy. Then we had the law that really said you should follow CDC, which says you have to wear a mask, but it allowed when practicable, some wiggle room in that. And then the order was definitive. No options available. In that order, it was very prescript, even had the 7 possible exceptions that we studied and, of course, got legal counsel.
Sorry for other questions.
No,
I got
these
another
are
one
good
too.
questions that people ask.
So what is it punishable by? If we are the ones who have to make the decision, but not our decision, but we make the decision, so what is it punishable by to re-look at the...
I'll answer this a couple of ways, because I have been asked it before. First thing I'll say is, like I have told kids my whole career, we should follow the rules regardless of the consequences. That's the message we want to send to our children. And that's the message we send to our staff, is that we go by the law. So the first answer is we go by the law. And that's the message we want to send to our children. Second message is that our attorneys have advised that there are legal implications to not following the law. And thirdly, there are insurance carriers that carry our liability coverage have a disclaimer that we are not covered fully if we knowingly and willfully violate a state, federal, local law or order. So those are kind of three reasons why it's not wise to not comply with the law. And our attorney advised also that the order coming from the governor and or the governor's commissioner of health carries the weight of law during a time of pandemic emergency. So those are kind of the general reasons why it's wise to to follow law. Now, the other side of that is you have the authority to make decisions for Poquoson schools, but the question is, can you, in good conscience, make a decision to violate the law or order from the governor? And I wouldn't advise that.
And we've all had these conversations. I
Yeah,
just think it's
yeah,
good that
yeah.
everybody can hear
it's-
different options that we've been asked and to get it out so people could.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. We've wrestled with this, and I know, folks, it's not popular, but it is it's something that this board, and I know you all have spent countless hours and sleepless nights wrestling with this very thing about how to keep our kids safe and protected, and at the same time not impeding folks' freedoms and really, we've heard from a lot of people who are really struggling with the wearing of the mask every day, all day long. It has been a long and challenging time, and I'm hopeful that that the numbers are putting us in a place where we can get out from under that. So, but these are very good questions that a lot of people have asked. As you know, we have a program called Let's Talk. So families, all of our stakeholders, our staff, our students, parents can ask us questions on the regular, and we respond to them as quickly as they come in. And these are the kinds of questions that get asked, and we populate those, and then we, on our website, we answer those questions for everybody else to see. So when someone asks a question, we then answer it and put it on our website under the COVID frequently asked questions. And these are the kinds of questions that are on the minds of our stakeholders, and they're legitimate.
Change of office that's coming along, can we reach out to the Attorney General and just try to get some clarity on some of these other decisions, I guess, so we can revisit some of the different clarity that we get on this
Absolutely.
later?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've talked about that, and it's good for the public to understand. We even worked on a draft that we were talking about sending to the governor at some point. So it might be time now to send to the Attorney General, Governor, with some of these questions, and certainly our positions on some of these things to get some feedback. It's a very good point. Yeah.
I have a question. So you brought up grants. In the past 2 years, have we received any grants that have been conditioned with coronavirus mitigation strategies, anything like that?
Not specific to mitigation strategies. We've, almost all of those federal dollars came with specific criteria that they had to be COVID related. For example, we were able to install new HVAC systems using a large chunk of that money because we could more safely circulate air. So some of the things that we were able to spend the money on, we could spend it only because it was COVID related. But I don't recall anything, Tara, that had mitigation, specific mitigation as a criteria for the money. No, good question. I don't recall any of that. Any other questions? I think we're on the, I hesitate to say it, but I think we may be on the tail end of this thing. So That's exciting.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillett. That is exciting. Next, we'll have the financial update by Tara Woodruff.
All right. Good evening, Chair Sheeler and members of the school board. It's time for us to start talking about the budget process. So I was going to review the budget calendar for the upcoming FY23 calendar and process. You do have a copy of the calendar at your seat. Yesterday, division leadership had a budget kickoff meeting as part of our admin meeting, and budget submissions will be due from the principals and directors on December 2nd. Throughout the budget process, we will meet with the benefits committee to get input on benefits. We will also have employees complete intent forms for their employment decisions for next year during the month of January. We anticipate that the governor's budget proposal will be released on or around December 15th. As we've mentioned before, that's not when we get our calc tool that tells us what state funding that we will get. We usually get that in January. So we have a little bit of time before we get all of that information. On January 12th, the General Assembly session convenes. FY23 is the first year of a new biennium, so it is the longer session, which will go till about March 12th. On January 18th, there will be a work session, and Mr. Tillett will present a budget update on the governor's budget proposal. And as you just mentioned, we will have a change in the governor. So we will get a budget from the current governor, and then there'll be a change, so we'll see how that works through the General Assembly. We have gotten some initial good information where we expect VRS rates to go down. We also are seeing that state revenues are coming in higher than they anticipated. So this is some initial good news that we are getting. On February 15th, Mr. Tillett will present the proposed budget at the school board work session. There will be a public hearing on the proposed budget at the March 15th, 2022 regular school board meeting. The school board can consider approval at that meeting. If you choose not to, we would need to schedule a special meeting because we need to get it over to City Council by the end of March. And then on April 25th, it's tentatively planned for a joint meeting between the school board and the City Council to discuss the budget. And then there are multiple opportunities for the community to provide input on the budget. The superintendent does seek faculty and staff input on the budget. Parents and community members are encouraged to attend the public hearing on March 15th. They can also provide input through Let's Talk, which is on the PCPS website. They may also contact the superintendent by calling or emailing him. And we do appreciate your support and continued input on the budget. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Any questions or comments? Thank you so much. And next up is Mr. Pappas with the operations update.
This is his 154th presentation to this board.
Thank you, School Board, Chairman Sheeler, and Superintendent Tillett. I've had the pleasure of working with many school boards over the last 14 and some odd months, 3 superintendents, several board chairs and vice chairs, all of which have been fantastic, and it was great to do so. Many, many principals and assistant principals, administrative staff from the SBO, it's just been a great pleasure. I will say, however, that my success really is a function of the great bus driving staff, food service staff, custodial staff, and maintenance staff. Without their hard work and the leadership that they got from their immediate supervisors, I wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be on unemployment line somewhere, but I'm very grateful to have been here. Last, and get the support I have, last time I spoke of some difficulties that we were having with the supply chain for food service. That situation has actually started to exacerbate, and we are now finding it difficult to actually meet certain criteria for the various federal and state food service production levels and quantities that we need of the various nutrients. Some of the things that we're having a hard time getting, and it's getting worse, as I mentioned, individually wrapped General Mills pancakes, French toast, waffles, Fruitles, cream cheese, bagels, and muffins, Schwann's whole grain pizza. Nobody's upset about us not having whole grain pizza. Mozzarella and cheddar cheese shreds, which you can imagine, we use a lot of that in our school food service. General Mills and Kellogg's bowl pack cereals. We can't even get them. Chicken patties and chicken nuggets are hard to find, but what makes it just intolerable, especially in the South, and I'm from the North originally, is that there's no more ranch dressing to be had. So we hope that as those ships come in from the West Coast, that they'll have some ranch dressing. Everything else will be great. You could put that on anything. Lastly, I'd just like to make a plea to anybody in this room or all those people at home who are playing along, is that we really need bus drivers. We need food service workers. We still have full-time positions for maintenance staff out there. And if you know anybody who wants to work, just have them call the school board office. Dr. Brandon Ratliff is going to succeed me. Let's go Bulls. Thank you, Brandon. And I'm going to take you through this middle school renovation for the last time, and then Brandon will take over. So I don't know if many of you have actually seen what it looks like. This is what the front of the school is going to look like from Poquoson Avenue. And what I've got here is, this is a plan view. If you were to take the roof off and look down, this is what you would see. And right here, oh, that was good. Right here is going to be the new entrance, which you just saw right there, okay? What I'm trying to do is show you what you're looking at. So right there, that's the new entrance. This here is the new administrative wing with the offices inside for the staff. It's a large open atrium here. And this is one of 2 courtyards for students to learn and congregate in. And over here, this is the existing East Wing, which used to be the new building, which now will be the old new building. Hopefully we'll call it the East Wing, and we'll call this maybe the center, and we'll call the old building, instead of the old building, we might call it the West Building. Students will learn directions. That would be great. This is a picture of the front of the school, which you basically just saw both the plan view, which was the architectural drawings, and a simulated architectural view of. This is the entrance right here. It's blocked a little bit here, and this is that new administrative wing. This is looking at it from Poquoson Avenue. This is also looking at it from Poquoson Avenue, but it's looking actually from the east, looking west. Same exact structure here. This is looking at the back of it, just to give you a sense of the scale. It's pretty big. Here's another plan view, and what I'm trying to show you in the next photo is this is the east wing, right here. This is the current existing east wing, and this is what I just showed you. But on the second floor, when you come up here, this is a big open space. Students can look down. It helps give the architectural airiness of the new building. This is the media center. There's a maker space over here, and I'll show you what it looks like. That's what that looks like today. You're actually seeing sheetrock is up. There's the metal framing. The doors are in place. Ceiling grid, HVAC. We're really, really rolling. Here's another view of the east wing. The inside, they've even got some of it painted. And then everybody likes a little mud. That's what we've had to be dealing with recently. This is another plan view. You are here, if you will. When you're standing here looking down this hallway, these are the metal studs. This is the front windows from Poquoson Avenue, which are represented right here. These are shades. Each of these offices are going to be contained in here. You're standing here, and you're looking at this hallway. And then, last but not least, this is the auditoria. This is part of the new addition. So this is where school productions will be, as well as students eating. Number 2 is the Poplar Street entrance, so it's a small circle we'll use for adaptive student bus drop-off. Over here in this section, this is the existing servery where we serve food to students. And 4, this whole section here, if you may remember, this was where all students were served. There were tables on either side of here in a long, narrow runway. So in 4A currently, that's chorus. 4B is the art room. And then there is a western, not to be confused with John Wayne, but a western courtyard right here. So we have 2 courtyards, and students will be able to come out here or come out from lunch and avail themselves of this space during the middle of the day. And here's what the auditoria stage looks like today. There's the stage. You can see some work. This is the gigantic heating, ventilation, and air conditioning pipes that are in there because we serve lunch and then we got to get the smell of pizza out. That was a joke. And this is a view of the auditoria currently. Here is going to be some sound attenuating panels. Here's the stage itself. And you get a sense of the scale of the room. That concludes my presentation.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Pappas. That was thrilling as always, my favorite part. And now, Ms. Reimers, do we still have a one person for public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Robin Zeman?
Right here.
If I could, let me just take just a moment here to make a comment. Poquoson School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings. School board members do not respond to public comment during a meeting. All comments should address a matter related to Poquoson Public Schools, and the school board won't hear public comment that involves an individual student-related matter, the disclosure of which would violate applicable confidentiality requirements. And to follow school board policy, time allotted to speakers shall be 3 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Robin Zeman, and I recently joined the staff at Tabernacle United Methodist Church. And it is my pleasure to get to know some of the surroundings and some of the people in the community. So I am starting here. I have been a youth director and in working with children in education for over 27 years. I currently sit on a board for Suicide Prevention Foundation in Isle of Wight County, where our goal is to provide awareness and support. And I'm trained to speak, Talk Saves Lives, and More Than Sad. Those are programs from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. These are, they are designed to educate and recognize depression in students. Now more than ever, our students need healthy outlets to socialize and to process day-to-day information and activities and their thoughts. Leaders in this community, teachers and parents, it is our responsibility to guide these children and their young lives to be the best versions of themselves and to become good citizens in this community and beyond. Because one day, they'll be the ones sitting here. They'll be the ones in our place. These unprecedented times are difficult for all of us, and churches are open. Now is the time to come together to edify and build one another up and to share our commonalities and our differences, our joys and our sorrows. We're not meant to endure these events alone. On October 15th, a half day from school, I told just a few students that I would host a kickball game over at the Poquoson Municipal Fields. I expected no more than 5 or 6 students, but before I knew it, I was calling in for backup because I had 20 of us playing kickball. I asked some of these students, how was it that you found out about this kickball game? And they said that they had heard about it in school and that they heard about it on the bus. It was great seeing them together on a sunny day, and that with negative information being spread so quickly through social media, I was extremely excited that something positive had gone through and met so many children so quickly. Mr. Mel from the city even came over and he gave us a ball and he complimented how great it was to see everyone playing and with such good behavior. We closed the day with a short object lesson and open discussion. It was wonderful to see these children who were not, all came in one common group, that they were having open discussion about the lesson that I provided. I only knew 2 students before that day. We need more positive activities like this one on a regular basis, and I want to share with you that I host an early morning meeting at 6:15 a.m. called Biscuits and Bibles at Poquoson Diner. This is held on the third Thursday of each month, and this is where high school students can come in, enjoy a free biscuit and an object lesson before heading off to school. It is my goal to continue to provide fun and safe and positive activities in this community, and I appreciate any support. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Jordan will read the consent agenda.
Yes, tonight's consent agenda is approval of our financial reports, approval to accept to change appropriation to accept and expend funds in accordance with the attached request, approval of our personnel action, approval of minutes for October's regular meeting and work session, and finally authorization to dispose of the surplus property.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Ms. Reimers?
Got to make the motion.
Going to make a motion.
May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Mr. Goodell? Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Mr. Childers?
Aye.
Chairman Sheeler?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, now we have other matters for consideration. Starting with the first, consideration of approval of the appointment of clerk of the board. Mr. Tillett, do you have anything to say on that?
Nothing further than in the reading file.
No. Can we just refuse?
No.
No? I'm sorry. Comments, questions? All right. May I have a motion to pass this consideration of
I'll
approval?
move that we consider the approval of appointment of clerk of board.
Second.
All right, Ms.
Ingram?
Reimers?
Aye.
Mr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Mr. Childers?
Aye.
Chairman Sheeler?
Can I refuse? You're sure? No? Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Apologize. Next, we have consideration of approval of superintendent's request to City Council for use of carryover funds. Any questions or comments? Mr. Tillett?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
This is exciting.
This is
an
exciting.
exciting request tonight that comes to us at the close of last fiscal year because of the extraordinary nature of the year. And this is not uncommon for you as a board to be considering at this time carryover funds. It happens on a fairly regular basis and has for some years. But the extraordinary amount of these carryover funds were due in large part to the kind of year we had last year, where many of the activities that are normal in a school year were reduced. We received a significant amount of unanticipated sales tax revenue. We had fewer substitutes, of course. No summer school in the previous year, 2020. Of course, no buses running for summer school. We had less extra bus runs required during the school day, as we had approximately 30% of our students learning virtually during that school year. We had several vacant positions that we were unable to fill. So when you add these, and of course, fuel cost, all the things that go together, we also didn't send our staff to out of town for professional development opportunities. In addition, we, as you all well know well throughout this process, we received large sums of money from the federal government that offset some costs that were related to COVID, but some other costs that were related to that would have been routine, but were also COVID related, could be spent. So we utilized those funds, I think, very effectively. And because of that, we are going to ask the city council to carry those funds over for us. Now, they won't meet until the 13th of December to consider this recommendation. These are the specific expenditures that we want to utilize those funds for carrying over. $214,000 to replace 2 more buses. As you know, we've chipped away at this. City Council afforded us a new bus in their meeting last month. We also purchased a new bus with COVID funds last year. And we have an old fleet. And this, of course, building back from the recession has been a challenge for Mr. Pappas and company in trying to keep these buses well maintained and on the road when they have extinguished their lifespan, predicted lifespan. And so we are thankful to be able to now replenish these buses as we move forward, and these 2 buses will be a big help in that. As you all will recall, these other 2 projects were part of our capital improvement plan that you all approved a month before last, one being a new traffic loop at Poquoson High School in hopes to get the traffic off of Odd Road and on our campus, especially at arrival time, and of course we'll help at dismissal as well. We believe we can stack 100 cars through that loop, and you all were in support of that. We are prepared to utilize some of this money now that we have access to go ahead and get started on that project, and it should get started pretty quickly. And lastly, for the capital side of this is the middle school project that you all just saw in great detail, and you've been aware as we've gone through this process that there were many unknowns when you renovate a building originally constructed in the 1930s that were hidden costs that we've burned through the contingency funds. So we believe it's wise to earmark almost $500,000 of that carryover funds for any additional unanticipated overruns or change orders in this project as we are getting ready to start the details of the finishing touches on the inside of that building. So we're hopeful we won't see that, and of course we can repurpose that amount of money later if it's not needed for this project. But the part that I'm really excited about, and will be news for pretty much everybody, is that we are also proposing that we carve out $296,545 of this carryover funding to provide a one-time bonus for all full-time and part-time employees of Poquoson City Schools. This is our proposal for the distribution of those funds. We recommend the one-time bonus pay be provided to all full-time and part-time employees who are currently employed in Poquoson Schools as of today, and current full-time employees who were hired before June 30th, and that was people who were here during the lion's share of the pandemic, would receive a full $1,000. We're also planning to pay the FICA taxes, so the employee will get that full amount in hopes. Hey, Bill, how are you? Good to see you. You missed Steve's presentation. So and then we're proposing also that we have a $500 bonus for all of our employees who started after that date. So our current employees who started with us this school year, after July the 1st of this school year. We're also planning to pay our part-time employees half of those amounts respectively. And then the bonus would be provided, would not be provided or available for hourly and substitute and supplemental employees, coaches and those who, folks who are not actually employed by us full-time or part-time. If approved, we would like to include this in their December check, which would come out the 17th, right before we enter into our winter holiday break. So this is the proposal. We believe that we won't have any obstacles with this passing fully with City Council. Of course, we have gotten the blessing from the City Manager, so we think this is a win all the way around it. Just to add that this is timely and certainly well-deserved. It's a relatively small token for all of the enormous work and dedication of our staff before COVID, but certainly during this challenging time, our folks in every department have had extraordinary measures to work through challenging times. And we're so thankful for their dedication. We have heard horror stories around the state and the country of folks leaving the profession and during this very challenging time. But our folks have stuck it out, and they're here with us. They fight the good fight every day, and they're doing incredible work. I try to tour our buildings weekly. I try to hit a school every day, even if I just pop in for a few minutes and poke my head in the classroom and see what's going on. And it does your heart good. These kids are learning at high levels, and these teachers are dedicated and providing high-quality education every day. Our bus drivers are smiling and happy and safely bringing our kids to and from schools. The custodial staff is keeping our building clean and sanitized. Our counselors are working closely with kids in a very challenging time, with social and emotional learning being one of our big challenges now in catching up. The cafeteria folks are preparing healthy meals. I could go on and on and on. So everybody on our team is working diligently. Can't say enough about our leadership, many of whom are in the building tonight. So this is a great thank you and also a great retention measure. I hope we're able to do it again in the future, but I think this is money well spent. So that's my presentation. I would recommend strongly that we approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Tillett. I appreciate that you have thought of all of the people that have been so important to us in getting us through this past year. Comments, anyone?
Mr. Tillett, the only question that I had, and it brought up as I was reading kind of through there, but I know you referenced no substitutes, but what about situations that we might have filled a vacancy for like a long-term sub? Does that come into play in any capacity? Do we know the answer there?
That's a good question. I don't think we have any on the list that would qualify with those parameters, do we, Tara? That is a sub. We do have long-term sub. There may be one. I'm just trying to think. We might have one that's been here long enough that would qualify. We'll have to look at that. I'll have to look into that.
It's just one area that I would.
It is a possibility that because of the time frame that they would qualify. That's a good question.
That's a vacancy, obviously, that's been very helpful for somebody to fill.
Absolutely. And we are trying to find a way to incentivize our substitute area because that has been a challenge. As you know, we were able to increase our run rate for our bus drivers, and well-deserved, and so we feel really good about that compensation package. We were able to do that about month and a half ago. And that was, of course, well-received. And so we're trying to be competitive everywhere we can and still steward the money. So that's a very good question, and I'll look into that if there's any long-term subs that would qualify.
Right. May I have a motion to approve the consideration of approval of the superintendent's request to City Council for use of carryover funds?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Ms. Reimers?
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Goodell.
Aye.
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Childress.
Aye.
Chairman Sheeler.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Excellent. All right, now we'll move on to communications, committee reports by the school board or superintendent. And the first to speak is Mr. Tillett.
I do have a brief comment tonight, Madam Chair. As you know, tonight is the last official school board meeting for Ms. Lena Reimers. Lena was the first Poquoson City Public School employee that I had the privilege to speak with. She and I spoke on the phone as I was interviewing for this job. And after I talked to her the first time, I realized this was the right place for me. She has a laugh that makes you want to smile. She is like I call her my work wife. She answers all my questions before I ask them. And she advises me on where to eat and what to do and where to go. I really can't say enough about what Lena does for Poquoson schools. She's going to leave a gaping hole that is going to be really hard to fill. So it's with mixed emotions that we end tonight with Lena's last meeting. We're really going to miss her, but we do wish her well in her new endeavor, and she's going to put a few less miles on that Honda CR-V as she travels a little closer to work. But we're going to really miss you, Lena. So tonight's her last night, and I know you have some prepared remarks as well.
Thank you, Mr.
I can
Tillett.
still send you texts to tell you where.
Please do.
I even text Ms. Reimers when I'm on vacation to find out some information that's very crucial to my vacation. Maddie?
So I have all of the school boards and all of the schools' reviews from this month. So the primary school has been very busy since the last school board meeting update. Besides welcoming a new principal, we have had lots to celebrate, events that we have been able to bring back into our school. We celebrated a longtime tradition at PPS with the story character parade on the last Friday in October. Students dressed as their favorite book characters and got to show off their costume or book in a parade around the building. We also had an event at the end of the quarter, a fall into reading day. Last Wednesday, we dressed up in PJs and cozied up with books. Every student got a free new book from our PTO Baggett book, another program we have been happy to be able to reinstate this year. Students and teachers had 2 opportunities for school-wide DEAR, Drop Everything and Read Times, where they could read a self-selected book. Minutes read were able to be used for our PTO Readathon fundraising event. Instructionally, we are wrapping up our fall literacy screening look at interventions for our struggling students, both in the classroom and our first graders participated in a wonderful virtual field trip with staff, learning a great deal about the settlers in Jamestown. We enjoyed being able to communicate how students are doing in school during our parent-teacher conferences. During the upcoming holiday season, we will continue to provide excellent academic instruction while also supporting the social, emotional well-being of students, families, and staff. PPS wishes all of our families a very happy Thanksgiving. Students at Poquoson Elementary School are enjoying the fall weather outside during PE and recess. Students from the 4th grade tag class presented a math project at the GEAC that incorporated addition, subtraction, multiplication, and money skills. Students created their own donut shop, decided which items to include on a menu, hired an employee, and They also rented a location and furnished the shop with furniture and kept track of their expenses and profits using the math skills they previously learned. The students were given the opportunity to be creative with their donut shop while also focusing on life skills that can be used in the future. Fifth grade was studying in the Northeast region of the United States this past marking period. Students chose a state from the Northeast region to research, and then they created a presentation. The research included the history, facts about the state, and the Poquoson Elementary School will have a book fair from December 6th to the 10th. Exciting things are happening at Poquoson Middle School. On October 31st, PMS core students from grades 7 and 8 had the opportunity to audition for the 2021-20 District 8 Middle School course. We are proud to announce that 7 of our students were selected as delegates. On Thursday, November 11th, 9 PMS teachers were awarded grants from the Poquoson Education Foundation totaling $3,106. This money will be used to purchase Flicks digital ebooks for the social studies department, lawn games for the physical education department, rewrite boards, insect microscope slides, and cork slides for life, and to purchase a free book for every PMS student through the PMS library. Books will be distributed to all PMS students during National Library in April. We appreciate the support of the Poquoson Education Foundation, all that supports this foundation immensely. We are delighted to be hosting the Scholastic Book Fair at PMS. Students in 8th grade were able to participate in the book fair at PES yesterday and today. The book fair will be open to 6 students in the PES library tomorrow and remain open through November 23rd. We will host a book fair family night in the PES library on Thursday, November 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. for all PMS families to attend. We hope Poquoson High School has successfully ended the first quarter. Our classes have been conducting labs, projects, and other meaningful activities outside of the classroom. Our PE driver's ed students interactive driving program and were able to hear from local and state police. Students were also allowed to drive a simulated course and learn facts through QR codes on wrecked vehicles. New York Times bestselling author Alex Kershaw visited with our history classes as a guest speaker. Mr. Kershaw focused on kindness and used history to illustrate his key points. Our Science National Honor Society inducted their 18 new members 2 weeks ago. Congratulations to Haley Swartzbaugh and Jason Norville for being Virginia Aerospace Science and Technology Scholars. Congratulations to the following sports teams for their tremendous Our field hockey team are state runners-up. Volleyball made it to the state semifinals. Cheer competed in the state competition cheer tournament. Cross country represented well at the state, boys earning 8th place and the girls finishing 10th overall. Bethany Vogel and Patrick Nelson placed high enough to earn all-state honors. Our sailing team finished 4th at the Massa Silver Championship race in Buffalo, New York, which was an Atlantic competition. Sailing ranked both 1st and 3rd in the Visa JV Fleet race at Fort Monroe, and Claire DiCarlo was named Sailor of the Week. Football continues in the region tournament this Friday at King William after defeating Brunswick High School last weekend. Congratulations to all of our fall sports. PHS has two students, Anna Hubbard and Rebecca Bassiana, that were selected to the Senior Honors Choir for our district. They will be the only 2 female representatives in our district that will participate. Our band received an excellent rating at the VBODA State Marching Assessment, highest honor. These are just a few of the many great things going on at our weekly newsletter to keep up with all the things at Poquoson High.
Thank you, Maddie. Mr. Ingram?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Mr. Forrest on being the high school student of the month. And I just want to thank Steve Pappas for your 14 years of service to the schools. And when I originally saw you a couple of years ago, we were on the wetlands board together, and you introduced yourself as the guy that gives the good news or bad news on the phone, whichever you want to take it. And just want to, since we didn't do this before, want to have a round of applause for Linda Reimers for her 7 years.
Thank you.
You made the Superintendent search very easy with the binder that you created. I really enjoyed all the writing in the notes and, you know, the scorecards and all that stuff for each one. That was very impressive, and just want to thank you for all your years of service as well. You will be missed. You both will be missed. And in the Navy, we always say fair winds and following seas, and God bless you. Thank you.
Dr. Goodale?
Thank you. Also want to thank Steve and Lena, and I'm sorry you guys missed out on that bonus. You retired a few weeks too early. Hopefully you can get some of that. And also I want to thank the teachers. You know, I know the money is going to be helpful on some levels. I know I've heard, you know, you see other school districts, they're doing things with vacation days, things like that. And, you know, I talked to a lot of folks about it, and, you know, you are appreciated. You know, I have two kids in school, one fifth grader, one second grader, and they're just happy to be back at school. And so we're really appreciative of all the work. I know it's hard. I work in educator preparation. I had one teacher today. She's training to be a teacher. She's in a classroom with 6 second graders and 6 first graders because the second graders was that far behind that they're at the first grade level. And I know there's challenges all over the Commonwealth and other areas, and it's just, I know it's a beast. And, you know, we're always looking for solutions. We want to retain, you know, last thing we want to do is head into next spring and next summer and having to fill 15 or 20 teacher vacancies is a burnout. And so we're always thinking about best ways to approach it. We're approachable. We're not your boss, so if you email us or have one of your friends email us, come up with ideas of ways that the schools can support you, and we'll listen, chew on it, and that's, you know, that's what I have. I think really appreciate what the teachers are doing for our kids.
Goodale. Mr. Freeman?
I'd like to congratulate all of our fall sports teams, making it through the regionals and to the states. That's, you know, great representation for particularly our field hockey team, being in a state championship game again for, I think, the 3rd straight year in a row. Just another incredible season for them. I'd like to thank Ms. Zeman for coming out and speaking to us tonight. Good to have you on board or in our community. I'd like to again thank our teachers for all their hard work and effort. It goes noticed, and we appreciate it more than you know. Pappas, congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for all your years of service. Particularly, I know I will. And Ms. Reimers, I appreciate your wit and straightforwardness. I said you've helped me as an individual more than you know in my transition. Good luck in your future, and if you ever want to come back, let us know. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
So just wanted to thank everyone that was able to attend the October 30th event for the Run for the Bulls. We had in excess of 175 participants at that race, and close to 60 sponsors from all varying levels, which made that one of the largest events we've ever had. You know, the cool part about that event is 100% of those proceeds go back to our school division. I mean, through the years, PEF's done, you know, an unbelievable job of helping us through tight budget years, and their commitment last year was known by all by the donation for the Chromebooks. And the you know, the race day support that we get from the Kiwanis Club, another local community service event, a charity, and all those folks that come out the race day, we can't have that event without the Kiwanis Club as well. So we look forward to next year's 22 event being even bigger than this year. We continue to raise the bar with the event. The sponsorships, you know, from the local level are very well received, and you know, I think people want to give back to their community, and that's become a really good focal point for our school system. So, you know, wanted to thank everyone for a tremendous event, and the PEF board and all the work that Judy McCormick and her staff does. To Steve, best of luck. Huge shoes to fill. Just a really good guy. And then to Ms. Reimers, best of luck for your transition, and we'll certainly miss you here. Thanks.
Childress?
So I guess I get to repeat what most of everybody else has already said. I'd like to thank Mason and the sports teams for their achievements that they did. Congratulate Mr. Pappas and Ms. Reimers about their futures, and good luck with everything. I'd like to thank Artie for his continued knowledge and advice on the COVID and these times that we are going through. I'd like to thank Robin for her service to the children and the public. Thank you. And I'd like to thank all the teachers and staff like I always do. You guys do a great job. I have 2 kids, one in primary, one in elementary school, and they just rhyme about how great the bus drivers are. Everybody at school is, how good the lunches are and everything. I know that's not easy, and so y'all do a great job for them to come home and tell us every day. Thank everybody for their hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Childress. And I guess I get to wrap up here. I'm going to be sorry to see Mr. Pappas go, but I wish him well. Retirement is a fine thing, although if I see you driving a bus in my community, I will be waving wildly. And I have the great honor of providing a few words to bid farewell to Ms. Lena Reimers as she leaves for her new job in Williamsburg. Bah humbug.
New Kent.
New Kent.
What?
New Kent. She's going to New Kent, right?
New Kent, okay. We would be less charitable about her leaving, except that she has a new grandbaby on the way. So very close to where she lives and where she will work. So I guess we have to let her go. So in planning, what I was going to say, I thought I'd Google what a board clerk is responsible for per the Code Virginia 22.1-77, duties of the clerk. So the description includes a lot of shall do's, literally 5 shall do's in the first paragraph, including a lot about keeping minutes of every board meeting, filing vouchers, receipts, contracts, official papers. So far, this wasn't what I was going to remember you for. Although I will say that her attention to detail has been exemplary. In preparing for each board meeting, Lena always has the board package ready like 4 or 5 days ahead of time so we can address any questions that come up in advance of the meeting. This is really helpful. So Google says the language of the Code of Virginia goes on to discharge under the general direction of the division superintendent such other duties in connection with the business of the school division as may be required, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So far I wasn't reading how we will affectionately remember Ms. Lena's smile and small gifts of chocolate and other treats at our seats. Just saying, points for that. Then Google went on to the part about requiring flexible work hours to accommodate evening and weekend meetings of the board. And this part does describe how onerous was her commute home of almost every hour. I mean, almost every day would be an hour each way, traffic being what it is. And we sure do have lots of meetings. So as you know, your board meets on the 3rd Tuesday of most months, but also meets in closed sessions and also meets in special meetings. And she makes sure that we do not forget a meeting. And she plans a nice lunch for us if we have to work through noon. These are all wonderful things. But I'm still looking for the part where she shall have called those of us stuck in traffic on the way to a meeting, or kind of lost in general, as in, Miss Lena, where am I supposed to be? I'm at the middle school. I know there's a meeting here, but I don't know what room I need to go to. So some of this is what made Lena so important to us all. But the best part was her consistent kindness of always having a smile and an encouraging word. We could always stop in and visit or share a personal moment before official meeting began. I don't know how many board members Ms. Lena shepherded through their responsibilities over the years, but as she performed her duties of the clerk, but I know at times it must have seemed like herding cats. I never saw that encouraging demeanor falter. And for that, we will miss her, and we will wish her the best in her new job, and most importantly, with her growing family. So thank you, Miss Lena. Thank you very much. All right. Do we have any material for board review? We do not have a meeting after this. Yay. So, there being no work session after, we are adjourned.